Hello, folks. Welcome to the quarterly Close Community Coalition meeting, full coalition meeting, all invited today. So thank you so much for joining us. My name is Paul McNeil. I'm the Program Director of Close Community, which stands for the Coalition of Longmeadow Organizing Substance Education. And we're so excited to have you tonight live on LCTV. Thank you so much to Brian Kazaska for hosting us tonight on LCTV. And I would love to start the evening by going around and just having folks introduce their name and the sector they represent, if they're a youth leader, or if they're a youth engagement organization, or if they're a health department, or things like that, or if they're a parent. We'd love to know where you're coming from as you join us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll start here.
I'm Shelley Warren. I'm the president of the board of Close, and I'm also the substance use response coordinator for Longmeadow District, Longmeadow Public Schools.
I'm Patty Gill.
I'm the parent sector rep, and I'm also on the board as the secretary.
Hi, I'm Marge Morgan. I'm in the community sector rep, and that sort of, I guess, encompasses anything Paul wants me to do.
Correct.
I'm Terry Dittmar. I'm one of the board members as well. I'm the treasurer, and I'm a parent of a high school student as well.
I'm Thomas Caloris. I'm a sophomore at Longmeadow High School, and I'm representing the District Attorney's Youth Advisory Board. I'm the secretary, and I also went to the CADCA conference in DC in February.
I'm Sue Bertrand. I'm the assistant superintendent for learning for Longmeadow and the Longmeadow Schools sector rep.
I'm Beverly Hirshhorn. I'm the health director for the Longmeadow Board of Health, and I assume that I'm representing the health department or Longmeadow town government.
I'm Maria Marchekos. I am the director of the after-school program and the J-Team program, which is our pre-teen program at the Springfield Jewish Community Center.
I'm Monica Rivera. I am a little bit too old for the youth sector, but I still serve in it as much as I can.
We have a college sector just for you. You're a college sector.
I'm in the college sector then.
I'm Sarah Mulcahy. I'm a senior at Longmeadow High School, and I'm in the youth sector.
I'm Catherine Mulcahy. I'm a freshman at Longmeadow High School, and I'm in the youth sector too.
I'm Liz Bone, and I'm a parent with a daughter in the closed student sector.
Thank you all so much for joining us. We would love to get the meeting started on the right foot with, we're going to introduce our young leaders and have them introduce a little bit about what they've just come back from in early February. We went on a national trip. We went on a trip to the national conference for coalition leaders like ourselves, and we brought a contingent of 12 people, including Terry Dittmar and Patty Gill and Shelley Warren, and there's some other adults here. Yeah.
Megan Roy.
Megan Roy was another adult, our health and wellness teacher at the high school, and we had 7 youth leaders join us for that trip. That was the first full week of February, just after the Patriots won the Super Bowl. And we'd love to have some of our youth leaders sort of share some takeaways from that experience. It was at the Coalition of Anti... What does CADCA stand for? Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, which is a corporation that has an enormous contract with the federal government that manages our grant. So they do a lot of the technical assistance. So they host this huge 3,000 person conference every year in February. And we brought youth leaders to learn about strategic prevention frameworks and strategies and engagement and outreach. And they were an amazing group of young people. So if any young person wanted to sort of start taking the floor and start to share their experience, that would be lovely.
So through a mixture of different stations that we attended throughout the week, we were able to meet with people of all different credentials and backgrounds who taught us about what action they take in their community to combat drug addiction and the things they did to help prevent drug addiction in their own communities, and whether it's drugs, alcohol, tobacco. There were presentations on it all. And some of them focused on the newest scientific research that is out, and others talked about specifically about strategies that they use in their communities. If they were someone representing a close community, something like that in their community, they told us how they work to prevent abuse in their region. So we made a list of some things that we were going to consider trying in our own communities based off of what we heard from people across the nation. And so one of the things was a parent presentation, because we feel that although students learn so much in school through the health class, that parents should get an education too, because many parents contribute to the actions that their kids do concerning e-cigarettes or tobacco or alcohol. We also talked about having Students Against Destructive Decisions members visiting middle schools to teach them about what the do's and don'ts of high school concerning drug addiction. And yeah, there's more, but I'll let some other members talk about them.
And for reference, there's just some of our notes on the whiteboard here.
Oh, yeah.
So,
If you get cold feet.
like Thomas said, we did get to go to a bunch of different sessions that were all focused on different topics. We did an alcohol one. There's a lot of the conference focused on a lot of vaping, so that's what we're trying to bring back to Longmeadow. We're doing a 6th grade health class information session through SAD about vaping, focus on vaping. And we do go to the 8th grade health classes now, but we're switching to 6th grade, or we're including 6th grade in that now, to try and combat the abuse portion earlier, because that's something we learned at the conference that's really important. And yeah, anything you want to say about
The
that?
opportunity to meet with legislators.
Yeah, it was really cool to see the government portion of it. That's one of the things that we learned that you can't really do in a classroom. And that was one of the bigger takeaways. Oh, that's us in DC.
We're about to storm Capitol Hill.
Yeah. So that was a
Holy
huge takeaway, the government portion of it and how involved all the legislatures were with, that's Ed Markey, with the issues, and they really wanted to know what they could do to help us with it in our community, so that was really cool.
Yeah. I'll say something.
Catherine, if you would like to share, you can.
Okay. I thought the presentations on advertising were really interesting. They focused on how the vaping brands were targeting kids and like fruit flavors and stuff like that. Okay.
That's just a difference for
I don't need to
you.
read that.
Let's
But,
just back up for what
yeah.
you're saying. You
Yeah,
just stay
thanks.
focused on what you're saying.
It was fruit flavors, and some bans some people are trying to ban fruit flavors to deter kids. So that was interesting. Yeah.
Who were some of the other presenters that you got to meet? You got to meet the Surgeon General. He spoke to the group, and who was the other individual that spoke to the students?
Oh, Melania Trump. That's the one.
First Lady.
Melania.
Yeah, First Lady Melania Trump. She was there.
Great.
She was there.
She was there.
Yeah.
That was really cool too.
Yeah.
She told us a lot about the work that she does to prevent opiate abuse and how she's met with people who are recovering and the work that she's done to help them, which was awesome. And back to our time at Capitol Hill, it was great being able to speak to Senator Markey and the staff of Elizabeth Warren and Richard Neal. I talked about the social aspect of what contributes to people wanting to do things such as tobacco, alcohol, and even opiates in the future. And I talked about how we're so grateful for the grant that he was able to support, and so that we could combat those social attitudes through our social norms campaign that is very, very effective at our high school. And through that experience, I also learned how important it is to not only, so one of the stations that I went to really broke it down. They said the reason that students do drugs is because they want it and they can get it. And the fact that they're able to get it is something that can be combated on a legislative front. And I just wrote down some ideas for us so that maybe we could communicate with our legislators about how they can work to help us as well. I attended a station where we were taught how to write a letter or an email to one of our legislators talking about how we can most effectively communicate to them what we want and what we support. So some ideas that I had for things that we could write to our legislators is talk about how we don't like that it's legal for marijuana to be for 21 plus and how that's been increasing the use of marijuana in both adults and youth. That there needs to be more regulation and intervention by law enforcement to stop e-cigarette stores from selling to minors and selling it to adults who then sell to minors, because the proliferation of e-cigarette stores has definitely contributed to the rise in e-cigarette use in high schools. And then also overprescription by doctors, because the more drugs that they prescribe to their patients allows them to have an excess of drugs in their houses, and that can contribute to them eventually becoming addicted as they just have it so available to them at their house without any supervision by the doctor that prescribed it to them.
Thanks, Thomas. And Senator Markey was really active on supporting the Drug-Free Community Support Grant, which is what funds this coalition in Longmeadow, and we're in year 2 of 5, potentially 10 years, which is a program of the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration out of the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the National Institute of Health. It's a lot of acronyms, but he's been instrumental from the very beginning of his term in supporting that work in particular. And then in a new act that came out a few years ago, the CARA Act, the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, and Markey and Warren have both been right at the top of the list of supporting those, so we're really lucky to have those 2 state senators in Massachusetts, and very easy to work with on Capitol Hill for sure. Yeah. He's we didn't have to win him over, Senator Markey. He was on board. Yeah. Anything else from takeaways from our experience down in DC?
It can be adults as well who attended the conference.
I think we've heard enough from Terry. Maybe Patty. Just kidding. It's not live, Terry. It's fine. They can just edit over that.
Right.
Sorry,
Terry's a little too embarrassed to talk right now, and we'll let him,
Recompose. He can recompose.
I'm usually doing karaoke when I'm in front of a mic.
Well, feel free, Terry. Yeah.
Right. I found that the CADCA conference was so amazing that I can't wait to go again. But you do have to be invited. One of the things that just really impressed me was how this is a national conference, and it is part of the Drug-Free Community Act. Is that what it or?
Community support program. Yes.
Support program, and this was 3,000 people from all over the country and outside of the country, and just that alone just blew most of us away. I sat in on a marijuana workshop. Well, it wasn't a workshop for marijuana, but it was just, we talked, somebody was on the, I'm a little nervous, but who is it, the federal drug FDA? Federal DEA. And then somebody else was a scientist, and so we got both sides of the legal side of it, and trying to control it and stop it from coming into the country, to stop it from being grown in the country, and then also what's happening with it between the pesticides and the herbicides, and it's not organic a lot of the time. That was really impressive to me. Other workshops that Terry and I sat in on were, how to keep the coalition going, how to reach out, how to engage with the community, which is, hard to bring this together, because when you say drug-free, everybody kind of backs off. So we're trying to be more creative with what it is, because it's, really important. The other thing was learning so much about the vaping and how rampant it is, and some of the people were even saying that it's comparable, or even the numbers are higher than the opiate epidemic, especially because it's so pervasive. And people don't realize how toxic it is, how addictive nicotine is. And, it's all around us. It's accessible. And, I just talked to somebody I know who's a freshman in a college in Boston, and he went into the dorm, and there's all these signs banning it. So for them to be banning it in dorms in Boston, he said, "Oh, that's just going to make everybody use it more." But it's a problem. It's going to be a little bit bigger before we get control of it, probably. So I think that's it for me.
I think one of the most impressive things about the conference was how comprehensive it was. You had people who were touched personally by this problem, whether it was their family members, whether it was they themselves. Like I said, the Surgeon General was there, and he was even talking, and even he had a family member who had been involved with it. You had scientists, like Patty said, and the amount of information that they were providing regarding alcohol, regarding tobacco, regarding the e-cigarettes, vaping, marijuana. It's almost overwhelming how much information we have, and yet despite that, we still have legalization of marijuana, for instance, in multiple states. And it's almost like Pandora's box has been opened, and how are we going to deal with it now? And the only way that we can really address some of this is through education. Not only the students, especially the younger students, the students who have access to it now, like Thomas was mentioning, middle school, high school, but even the younger students before they have that access, and the parents, the influence the parents and the teachers have. It was really, really an impressive conference. But I think that the biggest thing that we're trying to wrap our heads around is how we can get all this information out to everyone so they really know what we're dealing with. So it's not just a perception, but at least people have the right information to make the decisions.
I'm going to piggyback on that because I attended several of the sessions around marijuana, and it was a concern throughout the country, including people who are in states that have already legalized and then states that have campaigns going on. So it was really a lot of talk about marijuana and a lot of talk about vaping going on at the conference. But I was struck by multiple sessions I went to. The scientists were really frustrated because they're saying, we've had information for decades about the harm it does to the teenage brain. So they were very frustrated because they felt like the message through the legalization movement was like, it's an unstudied drug because it hasn't been scheduled, and so it's not that harmful. And they had all this messaging, and they said it's counteracting what we've already studied it. They're like, we already know. And furthermore, like the studies they've done were on marijuana when it was not as potent as what's out there now. So they were a lot of the scientists were very frustrated, the ones that I saw in the sessions, kind of frustrated and alarmed that their work was really not getting the center stage, and also a lot of emphasis on the amount of money that has gone into the marketing for the marijuana that has just kind of overridden that message. So they were kind of directly counteracting some of those messages, like it's not addictive. One session I went to focused on driving and the dangers of driving while under the influence of marijuana and the challenges around regulating that, which states who have not dealt with yet. And it basically is not going to be able to be dealt with in a way that's similar to alcohol at all. That was basically the takeaway. So we've, moved ahead, and, they were raising concerns about, like with legalization, if we have social consumption, which is which is being considered in Massachusetts, like having marijuana cafes, that how would we regulate how much can be served to somebody who then is driving home, because we don't have like those standards, in place. There are a lot of questions to be answered. But as far as our work here goes, one of the takeaways from that was really wanting to revamp some of what we do in the health classes around marijuana to make sure like that at least our young people get that information here. So actually Paul and I are meeting with the health teachers on Friday for a 2-hour window to kind of have a talk and share some of the information that we learned and look at ways to kind of integrate it into their curriculum. And obviously Megan Roy was with us, so she was on it right away, and I think she rewrote about 4 lessons right when she got back from the conference, both about vaping and marijuana. So it was great to have her along, and she put it to work immediately. So if you want to cap on anything.
Yeah, I can't agree with Terry more. We have to. There's young people don't really know what they're vaping, and parents don't really know that young people are vaping and what they're vaping. So there's a lot of education that needs to happen. And I'm going to push back and say it needs to happen with so many other things. So like policy change is very important. Environmental change is very important. Barriers need to increase, and risk factors need to decrease, and all sorts of community norming needs to happen around the healthy behaviors that are already happening in Longmeadow. But education is sort of central to that, because that's how you bring people in. And then all of a sudden, on the back end of things, you have people like Beverly who are doing compliance checks and making sure that the retail industry is holding up its end of the bargain and responsibly serving those sorts of things. And so with that, I would love to ask, with the young people and your experience, especially with e-cigarettes and the sale and marketing of e-cigarettes and vaping products. So you have the Director of Public Health in Longmeadow in the room. So are there any things in particular that you know of about availability of vape pens or vaping devices that you think Beverly needs to know, or that you think you'd love Beverly to sort of team up with us on as a partnership?
I feel like it's pretty obvious that's really accessible. That's obvious, right? Yeah. I think that's covered.
Accessible through sale or accessible through other people or giving it to minors?
Both, yeah.
Diversion, I think mostly. I think we did a purchase survey of nicotine delivery, an ENDS electronic nicotine delivery systems purchase survey with some Bay Path students last spring. Or was the summer? The summer?
I think it was summer.
Oh, summer.
Yeah.
And 80% of the places passed, and half of the places they surveyed were in Connecticut and Enfield, which the purchasing age is 18. It's not 21. And these students were all 22 or older. And so it was actually really good news, because it was very hard for these 22-year-olds to buy, without having an ID, to buy these vaping devices. There was one place that did fail, and we gave them a nice friendly reminder that it's against the law to not check for ID. And that place was in Longmeadow. But all the places that you would expect, sort of, because Enfield's just sort of loaded with vaping shops right over the border, they all carded 22-year-olds. So we thought that was hopeful, but that shows us that diversion is really an issue. So people that are buying legally but then selling, they're diverting their legal product off the market, as it were. And I wonder too if young people are exposed to and seeing the sort of proliferation of flavors and really, really sweet flavorings of these nicotine delivery systems, and if that's an issue with youth use?
It's definitely an issue because, so one of the common terms that I've heard a lot recently and for several years is the term Jewel God. People always want to kind of like they want to be the one that smokes the most or has the most flavors, and they get them not just, so many people do try to get fake IDs and go to stores that sell e-cigarettes, but also most of the sale is through students. So a lot of the times I see upperclassmen providing it for underclassmen, and there are many students that have even made thousands of dollars off of it. They substitute it for their job because they know they can get it off so much money, because they'll buy it from the store or from a friend or somebody else that will give it to them, and they'll upcharge it so they can make more money. So it's being just as heavily marketed by the students as it is by the companies such as Juul, which is horrible to see.
Yeah, like what you're saying about how they do card, but the majority of the senior class is 18, and when the age in Connecticut is 18, that's just kind of like, even if they do card, you're still 18 and you can still
And that's one
make
quarter
money
of
off
the
of that
population of the student body.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I think that's where most people are getting it. They're getting it passed down.
From people who are able to buy it legally.
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard that people do it online. They purchase online also. I'm not.
I don't really know. I feel like that's.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. I think people do, because there's no way for them to get caught, because it's all on their parents' accounts and stuff like that. So yeah, online is, I think, a big one, at least in my grade.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of people using their parents' accounts to buy products online without telling their parents. And I also remember specifically when I know that Juul tried to get rid of some of their flavors, people bought like so many packs of those things, they stocked up on it. So not only they could have those in the future, but also they could sell them, because they know that they would sell for more as the flavor is now off the market.
Because they're off market, so they're like vintage flavors, basically.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
The age verification systems through the internet are not really that effective. And if people buy over the internet, I mean, we're dealing with a society where the teens are usually the first people that come home in the afternoon. So if there's a UPS or delivery that's made, the parents might not know about it.
That's true.
So
I feel okay mentioning this because I don't know if there's an enormous teen population who watches LCTV, but I don't think a lot of teenagers. You can also buy a Visa gift card and use that online. You don't have to use necessarily a parent's credit card. You can go on eBay and buy things on eBay. So they're trying to shut down a lot of eBay outlets that are selling e-cigarettes because that's illegal, especially to minors. And so, yeah, there's work being done, but it's like way slower than the actual pace of young people accessing them. So I wanted to ask you all about these issues because there's some policies that can be sort of taken on by a community like Longmeadow as far as potentially restricting flavors or potentially restricting sales of electronic nicotine delivery systems only to places where you have to be 21 or older already to buy something, sort of, for example, like liquor stores. So taking it out of places like a gas station, places where children can walk right in and get exposed to. I don't know if you normally witness sort of where advertising happens, but it's like at the eye level of 5-year-olds, so it's like a really weird place to sell addictive substances. But I would love to draw people's attention to the screen, which no one can see. Oops. Sorry, guys. I just wanted to give us a little reminder of the vaping data of Longmeadow, and then I'm not seeing it now. There you go.
Monica, as
Yeah.
a college student, while he's doing that, what are you seeing on campus?
Well, I go to Westfield State, and there's stuff everywhere, like no vaping, no smoking, and everything. And I mean, I just moved on campus. I walk in, and it always smells like marijuana down the hallway. Always. I always see kids walking around with their vapes.
Is it supposedly banned on campus?
I believe so, but I'm not super sure about vaping, but obviously marijuana is banned.
So there's really no enforcement. It's banned, but it's not enforced.
Yeah, it's like very loosely enforced. Although it's actually my neighbors who are always smoking, so public safety has come down a couple times and talked to them, but it's not really a huge push for proactive action towards hey maybe don't do that. It's kind of like a slap on the hand, and then not much else happens.
Are they stricter? I'm curious, are they stricter about alcohol than they are marijuana? Do you see a difference in how they respond?
I haven't really had any experiences with alcohol on campus. I haven't really seen it. I know it's not a dry campus, but there are a lot of underclassmen in my building, so I have also seen public safety a couple times. You're like, hey, are you underage? But it hasn't happened a lot, so there hasn't been a lot of steps taken, just because they do a warning first, and then if it happens again, but it hasn't happened again, so it's just kind of under the radar right now, but we know what's happening.
Right.
Well, here's some data. So Longmeadow High School student cigarette use does remain low, but the use of electronic nicotine delivery systems like Juul or Fix has increased pretty dramatically. It's outpaced the state and national trend. 46% of students felt there was no or slight risk of harm. So that's almost half the students thinking it's not harmful to do it. So they're clearly not getting the message of nicotine and wiring the teenage brain for addiction. And 20% of LHS students reporting using ENDS in the past 30 days, so that's almost 1 in 3. And 9% report daily use, so that's 1 in 10 using an ENDS system like Juul every single day. 85% of our daily users also use marijuana regularly, so that's a cross-tab piece of data. So we looked at everyone who reported using an electronic nicotine delivery system like Juul, and how many of them use marijuana daily, and 85% of them are daily users, regular users of marijuana. And they were 4 times more likely to be daily marijuana users. So basically, substance use and the wiring the teenage brain for other substance use, there's no debate about nicotine being a gateway drug. It's very specifically a gateway drug, because it's wiring the teenage brain for too immediate, too quick, too dependable of a way to get dopamine and serotonin spiking in your brain and feeling good, and some stimulants in your nucleus accumbens. Am I saying that right, Sue?
Sure.
Okay. Is that good?
I think so.
I don't know what it is, but I know it's part of the
Sounded good,
brain.
though. Yeah. Just don't do it.
Okay. Don't do nucleus incumbens. Wiring the teen brain is something that is happening, for 13 to 18-year-olds, but maybe young people aren't making the connection that nicotine use is basically leading your brain to looking for other things to feel certain joyful, good things, sort of feel-good pleasures.
And obviously, with these stats that you just said, that 46% of the students feel that there was no to slight risk.
Mm-hmm.
That's
message
something
isn't
that
getting
we
out
have
there.
to continue to sort of hammer home.
Mhm.
And how, could you mention how early we're also seeing the trends of vaping starting to ramp up? How
It
early in
looks
the
like
grades or
We
ages?
only started surveying in 8th grade last year, so I don't think that we can really say, we can't really say.
But as far as
because we only
bumps,
start in 8th
we can
grade.
speak to the 9th graders, pretty
Yeah.
low. And there's something, is it 10th grade?
It's
where we
still
see-
we still see an increase from 9th grade through 12th grade, as we do with other substances. So it's not that we, have like 9th and 10th graders and fewer upperclassmen. That was speculated at one point.
Mhm.
So it still is lower and then higher as they go through. But we have had anecdotal instances with elementary school students even having access. So yeah, it goes quite young. And anecdotally, I would say a lot of reports are coming from 7th grade. So, I don't know.
So a few things. We'd love to talk about
Yeah.
some environmental strategies options for our coalition next. And then we would love to talk about how do we educate parents? Because we're working really hard on educating young people universally through the health and wellness classes. But parents is the next big population. So we'd love to talk about that in just a bit. But as far as
So should we we're going to do the vaping stuff first?
Yeah.
Since we're there, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have something to say?
Yeah, I just
Oh, yeah,
want to
right.
say that I've been involved in this for 25 years, over 25 years throughout my career here in Long Meadow, and it's so interesting that the scientific knowledge was out there almost 25 years ago and was repeating the same issues. I was also very happy to hear that advocacy is included as part of this conference, advocacy training, because the hardest place to do regulation is on the federal level. And believe it or not, a lot of the initiatives started at the local level where there were less political players involved. And so your involvement should really start with our local Board of Health. If you have concerns or would be interested in having different provisions added to our local regulations, or find out what the local regulations are, there's a lot that can be done on the local level and also at the state legislature here, because we have a little less pressure than on the federal level in terms of lobbying. And I do want to say that although it is my understanding that FDA is going to remove flavors, there is, what you mentioned is there is a way of changing the regulatory environment, so to speak, even here in Long Meadow, although you're saying that even the regulatory environment is not going to fix the problem entirely. We can make some fixes in the regulatory environment based on some ideas that we have of what's going to be able to make some changes or some restrictions without bringing in a lawsuit to the town of Long Meadow. So there's some tried and true things that we can go forward on and have not gone forward with. And so your input, I think that would make a big impact on the Board of Health, having a group of young people come and saying what they would like to see in changing local regulations. I know it's not the end-all and the be-all,
No,
but
but
it's
it's a
better
huge
than
piece
nothing.
of the effort.
Yeah.
Any young people in this room might be interested in doing that?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, cool.
Speaking to
Speak in front of the Board of Health and changing local law.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
It's not that big if they don't bite you.
No, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal for
I
our
think it makes a
coalition.
It's great.
statement
Yeah.
that our
Yeah.
town is supporting your efforts.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I'd be happy to work on that with you.
Thanks, Beverly.
I'm not sure that what the Board of Health, I only work there, I'm not sure what the board will decide. But once we come up with a strategy, I can at least inform the board how this is work, what their legal exposure might be, based on what other communities in Massachusetts have done.
So when does the Board of Health meet?
Sporadically, when
Sporadically?
it has enough business to meet.
So would it be, to start that ball rolling, would it be like close submitting a letter to them
Yeah, saying they'd like
we
to
would like to seek
just
your
like to
audience?
appear, and then you're scheduled, their chair will schedule you either the next meeting or the next, depending on the business that's at hand. I'm sure there'll be at least one in the next month or two, so.
So things that we have talked about before, is this an appropriate time for me to talk about?
This is great.
So, because we have talked about the advertising, as Paul mentioned, and the restricting of, well, I think you already said this, actually, restricting of flavors to places. We already are a tobacco 21 state, which is great. So there's not much else to do in terms of that. But
The
can you think of any
flavoring
other
there is.
policies? It's the flavors with
Flavor
21
blends, and
Flavorings, there's a little room to tighten things up.
with flavors.
And the potential restriction of the
Locations.
premise location policy. So like, if it's a 21 plus establishment to begin with, that's a lot less access to and exposure to young people than a gas station. So you can also have those laws on the books. A lot of times Massachusetts started doing that, restricting vape sales to places that are 21 plus.
All right.
Yeah.
Imagine the big Y.
So for the record.
Like the big Y.
I said, I can't imagine the big Y who owns the gas station allowing that in their premises.
Yeah, I think it's funny,
Yeah.
places like the Big Y, it's like CVS. Once someone made the move of we don't want tobacco anymore, all the other drugstores followed. So I think Big Y is sort of just waiting for an excuse to.
Actually, we have a regulations in Mass, no sale of tobaccos in places where pharmaceuticals are sold.
Yeah.
And that's how it got out of CVS.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
it's-
that's, I didn't know that. That's a
That's great.
Massachusetts regulation?
And Big
Because-
Y,
Oh.
Big Y has a pharmacy
Mhm.
in the Big Y supermarket here down on Bliss Road.
Oh, so
they can't,
Right,
oh, good.
But at their gas station,
that's right.
like 50 feet away, they do. So, right? I mean, that's
So
like a loophole.
I think what you're saying,
kind of,
Beverly,
so.
is we should put a pharmacy in the gas station. We could do it. I'm pretty sure they'd be game. Just a few walls, right, Terry?
Add a few things. So that's a great idea, though, to
Yeah.
meet with the Board of Health.
I think that'd be great.
And then, Paul, you were talking about doing some other shoulder
Yeah, there's a
tap
few other
surveys. Do you wanna talk about
environmental
that?
strategies. So, if you guys wanted to draw your attention to the screen, so there's like 4 things chiefly that I've seen communities do as far as an environmental strategy. That means to change the environment that young people are growing up in. The 84 is an amazing organization out of Massachusetts that used to stand for the 84% of teenagers that weren't smoking tobacco, but now it's actually much higher than 84, but it's still called the 84. And I think of our youth leaders all the time, and I think of the 84, because they go to Boston once a year and they basically lobby Boston to say, make it harder for young people to access tobacco. It's killing people. And they have a strategy and tons of information on compliance checks, and that's something that Beverly has supported in the past. We've matched our funding from our grant with the town's public health department to do some compliance checks, which are punitive. So that means you take someone who is not of age, you go into an establishment, and you try to purchase. If they make the point of sale, they are legally liable for what just happened. So they can have their license
Penalties.
suspended.
There's penalty
There's
provisions.
penalties. It's punitive. So some communities get excited about that. Some communities aren't as interested in compliance checks because they are punitive. And then we'll just hop over to the right. There's a purchase survey, which is very similar, except the person is of legal age. They're still going in to purchase. They're not looking to actually purchase. They're looking to see if they get carded. And so let's say in Longmeadow, they'd be 22 years old. They'd go and they say, I'd like not mint. Yeah, mint. I'd like a mint jewel kit. And then if they are about to make the point of sale, the person would say, actually, I'm not interested in buying this. We're doing a survey for the community. And then we're getting a percentage of how many people pass or fail that. And then they basically get a reward for passing, or they get a please do the right thing next time reminder if they fail. And then we put that sort of information in the local newspaper saying, we have 83% of people, of establishments are passing in this community. It's a great thing. We just want everyone to know that the right thing is happening, blah, blah, blah. So that's non-punitive. And then you have a shoulder tap survey, which involves young people. And this gets a little bit, because we haven't seen retail access, direct retail access, be an issue in town, but we've talked about diversion. So someone purchasing a legal age and then selling it on the side, or in Enfield, right?
Yeah.
Or an 18-year-old in Longmeadow, exactly, going to Enfield, and they're a senior at the high school. But a shoulder tap a shoulder tap survey is when you team up with the establishment, and you have teenagers, 2 or 3 teenagers standing out. It's great if it's 2, because 3 looks a little more conspicuous. 2 standing outside of the establishment. You have a law enforcement official who we hope would be Sergeant Carl Mezzafaro, because he's a wonderful man, and he's a part of our coalition. And hey,
He
Carl.
sent his apologies that he could not be here tonight.
Yeah, he had like 14 hockey practices somehow to go to tonight. So you would have an officer keeping an eye on 2 teenagers who would approach a stranger, just like Shelley, and say, "Excuse me, if then," so they'd give them an if-then proposition, which does not break the law and it's not entrapment. They'd say, "If I gave you $20, would you be able to buy me a jewel with a mint jewel pod?" And we're basically looking for how easy is it to socially access the substance. So if it's someone in town, like Shelley says, "Oh my God," usually people are immediately like, "Get away from me, how dare you," and they start yelling at the children. And then the children say, No, we're just doing a survey, you did the right thing, thank you. And they give them a little thank you card. But some people will say, like, "Okay, sure," because they're looking for a few bucks. And then we say, "We're actually just doing a survey." You give them a card, it says the fines and the what they'd be liable for if they did purchase for a minor on the other side of that. And again, we're looking for a percentage of a community norm. Like, is it normal for Longmeadow adults to purchase for minors when approached in public, strangers? And so usually it's very, very few adults will purchase. And so we put that information, we get it in the local newspaper and put it on social media, and we start to advertise that positive community norm. And the last thing is an environmental scan, which would be super easy in Longmeadow because there's not tons of tobacco licensees in town. And what that is really just taking a list of paper into an establishment and just seeing, like, what do they sell? How much do they sell? Is there advertising materials for what they're selling? Is it at eye level of children, or is it eye level of adults? Is it in the back? Can I see it from the front desk? All that sort of, you're doing an environmental scan of what the environment is like for a normal patron, if they're a young person, or if they're an adult walking into that establishment. So these are all environmental strategies that we could do. And what we've already heard interest about is doing a shoulder tap survey with some of the teenagers in Longmeadow. I think that'd be really fun and cool to do. And we could team up with the Enfield Coalition. They have their own drug-free community coalition to do some of this work, because we could sort of swap communities so there's no one recognized and that sort of thing. So yeah, I put it out to the group of adults and youth in the room, just wondering what people think about those environmental strategies and sort of what they think might be a good fit here.
Well, I know a lot of us who went on the trip. Do you have to be 18? Did you say you have to be 18 for the shoulder tap thing?
No.
No?
You just have to have your parents sign up.
No. I think we talked about it on the trip when we were all said we would
About
do
the
that.
shoulder tap survey.
Yes.
It's kind of thrilling and a little bit scary at first, but then
Sounds
you sort of
super
get into the
exciting,
groove,
actually.
and then it starts to feel great and rewarding, because you're like basically,
Sharing information.
well, and you're thanking all these adults for doing the right thing. It's going to be a vast majority of adults that are like, "How dare you?" And you're like, no, you're doing the right thing. And you're like, that switch, and then adults get so excited about, "Who are you, youth? Like, this is so cool. Thank you for doing this." It becomes this great sort of community activity.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I think that'd be effective.
Cool. And we can pay you too. We'll talk about that later.
I'll do it.
It's in our, Monica, I will do it. I'll do it twice. Thanks.
Thank you.
Say hi to Kaylee for us. That was the mother of Kaylee Bone, who also attended the CADCA National Conference, a great leader. She was a 9th grader.
Yes,
Oh, she was so well spoken. She spoke to Senator Markey with great confidence. Catherine, also a 9th grader. Mature well beyond your years. So we'll
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So shoulder tap, are you interested because people don't have to be 18 to do it? Or,
Oh, no, I just
or do you
didn't-
just think that's an interesting concept?
No, I
Like-
just thought it was interesting. I couldn't remember if Paul said we had to be 18.
Okay.
He did mention paying us, but
I'll pay you for anyone.
just kidding. I'm
Yeah.
kidding. I'd
Any
do
of
it
these
I would do it for
environmental
free.
Yeah, but you know, Paul, he's not telling you what he's paid you.
I
but
know, he's
it'll
probably gonna pay us
be
like $1.
a lifesaver or
Chris Pie
something.
Yeah. A Chris Pie 5, that's a good one.
I think it would
You
be interesting for me to do it because I'm 6
Okay,
months
Money.
away
I mean,
from being
Monica.
21.
So you're
So
so
if I'm
close.
like, oh, I'm 20 and a half, I'm so close, I think that would be really interesting to see what happens.
You'd be
with that.
you'd be a perfect fit. I mean, the students that we worked with Bay Path last year, they totally looked like they could be 18 or 19. So you just have no idea. So that's why you should
Right.
be carding. And if you ever get carded as an adult out there, just say thank you, because
High five.
enjoy looking young.
No, I wanted
All right, so
to-
I have Tom, I'm just trying to get down. So Thomas, you're interested in more information if we
Yeah.
organize that.
I'm also
Sarah?
just wondering, what would
Catherine.
be, like, so once we go do the shoulder tap survey and then we get the data from it and make percentages, what are we going to do with that to help proliferate drug prevention?
We can present it to the Board of Health. So if we time that well, we can also submit a press release to the local newspapers, because usually Mass Live likes that kind of stuff, because it's like it's either a catch 'em situation, or it's a or the reminder will pick it up because it's a lovely story about the community. So yeah, but we ideally you put it in the press so you can advertise the healthy community norm.
Are we going to have the kids either go to Enfield or go to Wilbraham and just swap with some of the
Oh, I didn't even think about
coalitions?
Wilbraham. That's a great idea. I haven't even talked to their coalition about that. I was really interested in Enfield because of the 18 age difference.
And
but
the fact that we're so close.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's a lot of sourcing. That's what we're hearing.
And they have
It's a lot
tons of vape
sourcing.
shops. I mean, Wilbraham doesn't have very many. I don't think. How many do they have? So I looked right at Sue. She's like, well, when I buy my...
I have no idea. Did Wilbraham allow vape shops? Do you know, Beverly?
Well,
Maybe up on
you do it in the opposite way. You regulate electronic nicotine devices as part of your tobacco regulations. It's not allowing vape shop. It's more including in existing regulations electronic delivery devices. So I don't know what they have done, but I really don't, but I could find that out for you, make a call and get that to the
Yeah,
Coast
I would love to
Committee.
team up with them. To have a little 3 coalition partnership would be great.
I mean, East Long Meadow does have that vape shop, don't they?
East
Yeah,
Longmeadow
yes.
has
Yes, they
more
do.
than Longmeadow for sure.
Yeah.
They don't have a
It could
coalition.
potentially happen here.
Mm-hmm.
Just no one has opened it up yet, but
Yeah.
it could happen here. So one would be, you'd have to regulate it by doing some of the measures that that you've discussed now. These things could happen here, and we don't want to play catch-up
Yeah.
in terms of our regulations.
Get ahead of it. Maureen, can I ask you if the JCC has seen any issues with vaping or on premises or with their youth leadership population?
Not that I know of. Our whole premises is, a smoke-free zone. There are signs everywhere. People are really respectful of it. We never have anybody vaping out on the premises or anything. And if we do, us as employees do go over and ask, this is a non-smoke-free zone, vaping zone, so you can't do that right here. But not that I know of. And I was actually shocked to find out that 7th graders and 8th graders, because that's our J team that are doing it, we never hear conversations of them talking about vaping or anything that have to deal with that. So as far as I know, not right now, but they could just be being very quiet about it. They know we're always listening.
Yeah, well,
Do you have a basketball league of high schoolers?
We do.
Do they play inside and outside?
Right now, they're just playing inside because it's cold outside. But outside, I don't think they really do. I know we get high schoolers that do come to the outside premises basketball fields and stuff like that in our courts. When it's warm out, we'll have quite a bit of kids out there. But yeah.
would there be any youth leaders you think might want to join in with the shoulder tap survey?
Yeah, I can
strategy?
definitely ask and find out.
Great
But I'm
to
sure
know.
that there will be.
How many kids do you think we would need
It's
to?
great to have like 6, because then you can sort of rotate people in and out. 2 here, 2
Could
there.
we? Could
You
we
do multiple
possibly
places.
Recruit some kids from SAD.
Oh yeah, I know like Kelsey and Madison are interested in that too. And I'm sure sad people would be interested
Yeah.
as well.
And we're meeting
What
tomorrow,
grade-
so
Yeah.
we can see who wants to do it.
I'm sorry, what grade do you have to be in or what?
It's ideal if you kind of look 18, because then
Okay,
that
so
makes
like
it
older
interesting.
grades, yeah.
Yeah.
High school, it was high school age.
Yeah, and then they have to get parent permission.
But
And
this
when-
is for people who are 18 trying to get an adult to buy?
Yeah, so imagine, if you will, you're an adult and you're approached by a 12-year-old, way
Yeah.
less likely to purchase for a 12-year-old, right? But there's something about that on the cusp age, right, of like, oh, you're almost old enough anyway, where you might get someone who would provide a substance socially.
Okay.
And basically, it's just to get a more realistic response rate, because, I mean, I think very few 12-year-olds will ask strangers for drugs.
Patty,
But maybe I'm wrong.
You could pull it off.
To tell you the truth, I've been thinking, yeah, I want to go with them. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm the one who will buy. Seriously, this whole time.
Excuse me, ma'am.
I can just see Patty like, if I gave you $20, like, what's wrong with you? But Patty, you're welcome to join us for security. Safety.
Patty can be my security guard, my personal bodyguard.
I never did that type of check that you're discussing, but I did remember when we did compliance checks, or when we do compliance checks, that there used to be quite a difference between the checks that were done in evenings and weekends, when you had the less experienced staff, sometimes teens
good idea.
manning convenience stores, or people barely over the minimum age. So my only suggestion is to vary times of day and days of the week when you do it.
So
Because sometimes you draw different customers, or people are available
Yeah.
as customers and as clerks. So depending on whether you're checking the clerks or the customers.
Switch it up between
Switch it off,
weekends
switch it
and
off.
weekdays. But would be like 5:30 kind of be a good time, because it's like everyone's getting out of work sort of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard that's good to like have
But it's
higher
also
traffic.
some of the regulars in the store are not.
Mhm.
Are not there. They've left, the day shift has left.
Okay.
And maybe people think
good
that
tip.
they'd have less trouble buying it for somebody else if, the regular wasn't on duty. Because some of the people that are the sort of regularly me in stores, I don't know, they have they know what's up. So they're looking out the window,
They might spot us, you mean, from a distance?
Oh, yeah.
Do we tell the store what we're doing?
Well, the
if
shoulder
we do
tap
that?
survey, yeah, it's
You
in
do?
collaboration
Okay.
with the store.
So
they
they
love
know
it.
that
They're
we're
like,
in
"Oh
the
my God."
parking lot, okay.
And then they get
Be
great
great
press.
publicity
Yeah.
for them if nobody is able to
Zings.
get away with it on their premises.
Right,
Yeah.
right, oh, that'd be interesting.
Where do
Yeah.
you do the shoulder tap? Like, not right in front?
Kind of, sort of, to
Is
kind
it
of the
in a-
side.
in the
It's kind of
parking
fun to
lot
pick a
somewhere.
spot. Like, if there's a good store that has kind of a darker corner in front, I know it sounds weird, but like, you kind of imagine what would a real person who's really trying to access, where would they do it? So, yeah, usually not in a very well lit, not standing in front of the Big Y Express.
Or the camera, now
Um,
the camera's on you.
Yeah, but maybe, I don't know, it's something to think about the teenagers. We kind
Yeah,
of
I'm
asked
just
them.
wondering, because I want to make a few extra bucks, so.
Try the ice machine in the back.
So then we'll have to get
Even
in touch
near
with
the
police department
pumps,
about it,
Yeah.
too.
where somebody leaves their car near the pumps the gas, or is planning on pumping and goes into the store.
Yeah, you're right. And so we'll figure that out. We'll figure out the
You
location.
figure it out.
So it
yes.
Actually, are there any locations that people would recommend? Like, oh, this place would be, let's hold this place a little more accountable than these other places. Are there,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and out them on public television.
Smoke and Munch.
Well, how
I've heard
many
a lot of people going
places
there.
are there in Long
Smoke and Munch in
Meadow?
Enfield.
Smoke and Munch
How
is
many
definitely a
places
must.
are there in
Yeah.
Long Meadow that
There's-
potentially?
8, I believe, right
Seven,
now.
eight.
We lost a number in the last few years, which is bad for revenue for the town.
Oh, no.
But good,
Good for you
know,
guys.
good public policy, the idea of you can't sell pharmaceuticals and cigarettes in the same establishment. And then we actually had two licensees that were hit by very serious federal fines. The FDA, Food and Drug Administration, they also do compliance checks, and they don't necessarily tell the locals. And some of the stores were hit by $1,200 or $2,000 fines. And so after going through that a couple of times, they decided on their own that it wasn't profitable for them to continue sales. So we lost 2 in 1 year because the FDA fined them so heavily. and then we lost 3 with the new state
And
law.
once those licenses disappear, they're gone. They're not sitting on the table waiting for someone to apply for them, right?
Somebody, yeah, we don't have, and it's another thing, we don't limit the number of licenses here in Long Meadow. There, you could have
You could.
a local regulation setting a cap
Mhm.
on tobacco retailer licensees. We don't have that in our town. But we've lost 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 4 or 5 in the last 2 years.
You're saying nicotine? Like, what have
Tobacco
you lost?
licensees.
Tobacco,
license.
you can't, I use the term tobacco, but our regs speak of the vaping devices as part of our tobacco regulations. So if you have a pharmacy and sell prescriptive drugs, you can also not sell any tobacco or other product that is included within the tobacco regulations that we have. And vaping devices are included in our tobacco regulations.
Is that something that if we have the students go in front of the health board to have them request to limit the number of licenses?
Yes, you could, because we never know who might pick it up. I mean, you never
That's
know. I mean, years ago, and there was a restaurant in town, I don't want to name names, that
What was the name?
Hooky Lao. They're not in business. They're not in business
I
anymore.
love Beverly so much.
They used it. They were. This whole thing with tobacco control started because that particular restaurant had a self-service machine to sell, located in the cloakroom. So kids would come in the door, hit the cloakroom of the restaurant, where nobody could see them anyway, buy the cigarettes through the vending machine, and walk right out the door again, and like at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's no one.
Scorpion Bowl, and then they were gone.
Right. So, but
Beverly and Patty, I see a reality show forming here.
But it's very interesting that this particular restaurant continued to sell tobacco legally at the desk, when you come into a restaurant, the hostess desk, because they also had a bar there, and they felt that their customers, as a service, that they would sell tobacco products as a service to their customers at the bar or wherever, who would find it extremely inconvenient to have to leave the premises and come back again to load themselves up with additional cigarettes. So it is possible, it sounds crazy, but maybe
Yeah.
some restaurant or a restaurant bar in Long Meadow might get an idea that they like to do that. Of course, you can't smoke inside now, but just for the convenience of their customers, maybe they just like to sell them. There's
So
nothing to prevent it.
We'll talk about caps with the SAT group. That sounds great. Thanks, Beverly.
There's some things
of
you could
options.
do. But I think more than that, just hearing the voices of young people who are concerned and are asking to have things done that are not outside the realm of reality. There are other communities that do that. If the board heard that young people want the board to seriously consider adding this as part of our existing regulations, it would mean a lot, I think.
Good.
That's good.
Thanks so much.
Well, empower young people.
And it helps you because you get more confidence.
Right.
These 3 don't need any more confidence.
Okay, well, I would have, when I was 16 or 17, I would have needed a lot of hand-holding to get through that. Perhaps you're a little more sophisticated than I was at that point.
Any experience is good. So if we're talking about locations to target. If we
Yeah, if
did
there's any,
environmental.
and it sounds like we had one in Enfield, the Smoke and Munch,
Munch.
classy joint.
I heard this a while ago, but specifically Smoke and Munch on Wednesdays. Because I know Wednesdays are the day that they don't check for IDs or something. I don't know. I
Cool.
heard that a really long time ago.
Oh, that's useful.
Maybe the
We'll
boss
test
is on boss's day off. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be who's on shift, basically. But are there other ones that people think we should do the
How
survey
about the
at?
one
Other
in
ones that
East
you're
Long Meadow
interested in?
Center? There's one not too far away from the Rotary. Is that a hot spot?
Near the bowling alley, isn't it? Near the bowling alley?
I can't think of the name of that one. So, thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys.
We'll be in touch with, well, I'll see you tomorrow. actually.
That's just a little superhero. I would love to pick the brains of adults in the room as far as, hey, let's get the ball rolling on a parent education event. We don't have to talk about this ad nauseum right now, but I just wanted to sort of get people's initial take, and then we'll have our Take Action group take this on. Our Take Action subcommittee, they help plan events like this. But we wanted to do a parent education event in town in the next month or two. We were thinking of potentially late April, maybe a Thursday night, and even the JCC potentially could help host it, which could be really cool.
Absolutely.
You know, Sonia was trying to find a good date that would work. And yeah, what are some initial ideas from parents around time of night, if it's like a Thursday night, how to get parents in the room and interested in the idea of vaping and what the products are, what they do to the teen brain?
I know if we do at the JCC, I can't say yes, we can. I got to talk to the executive director and stuff like that. But usually when we do events like that, we do a Thursday night, and we'll usually offer like free babysitting or something with a lot of our preschool teachers and my after-school counselors. So this way the parents can come to the event and not have to worry about finding a babysitter to be able to come. And that usually is very convenient for them.
And sadly, I do think that the transitional parents, both from elementary school to junior high and junior high to high school, those are two groups that would be very good to target for this. I think high school parents, it would be great, but I just think that
little late.
Yes, it's difficult to get the high school parents, and I think there's enough concern in those younger parents. So having babysitters, especially for that elementary, junior high age, is great.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of our, elementary kids, the parents, they think that they're old enough to be at home, but they're really not, and the parents don't want to leave them home at all. So if we did tell them that there was care that would be able to watch them, they would be more likely to come.
I do think this 7 o'clock time that you mentioned is best, because just getting home, getting dinner and everything like that, it will allow the time.
If we provided dinner, would that be any added incentive for younger families?
Some days too late.
Yeah, I don't really know if. I don't
then
really
we might
know
would do it earlier, like.
I don't think that's going to bring the people who are interested in getting the information.
That's not the issue. The issue is dinner. Okay.
I know when we do it, we never provide dinner, and we get quite a bit of families that will come to different events that we do there.
Childcare is so great. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
How much does that cost?
Yeah.
Well, even with
On
the
the record.
childcare, with the childcare, do you think they have access to the rec room? Because if it's junior high.
Yeah,
You
so
mean the gym?
if we get enough counselors and enough preschool teachers, what they do is they split them up in age groups. And we have like the older kids that are like the elementary kids and stuff go into our game room, and then the younger kids stay in one of the preschool classrooms and stuff like that and play. So we do split them up so they'll be
It would be
different.
co-sponsored with the center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, good, because you have a following.
What are you saying, Marge?
Well,
They do.
their programs are they've been on for years. They're well received.
It's a well-oiled machine,
organized.
yeah.
Right.
And if a parent's going to come at all, that seems to be the place to go, I think.
I think trying to get the message about our statistics out and the worries that, we're having as educators with students with the vaping and
So data, make that in
data.
good
I think,
data.
yeah, good data and maybe some scary data too. I think,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I agree.
Yeah,
It's
and
gonna be
we've heard both things. 7 o'clock is a great time because you have time to go home and get dinner. And then we've heard, well, I can't come at 7. I'm putting my, elementary kids to bed at 8. So, or 8:30. So I don't know. Happy medium, 6:30, something along those lines. But
We usually do 6:30.
Oh.
We usually don't do 7 because 6:30 seems
Right,
to be
that's-
kind of
that's
like
good
Even
to-
better.
well, apparently, you have
the
older
deal,
kids,
yeah.
so but the younger ones are.
Especially because we're targeting parents of younger
Yes,
kids.
yes,
So
yes, yes.
That
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
So 6:30.
Right.
So it's good feedback.
And so, as far as content, any other things we should cover? So we would cover, what vaping devices are, what they look like, signs and symptoms of potential use, what the implications are as far as the developing brain.
I think some of the science about that is important. I think you want to give enough information, but not make it be overwhelming.
Don't overwhelm.
Because
It's
I've
pretty
been
easy to
to some of the
overwhelm.
talks where I even have, to some degree, a medical background, and some of it's overwhelming.
Yeah, I hear you.
Well, I think like seeing how many people like my age and younger are using these devices, I think it's really important to reiterate, hey, this is nicotine. It's very similar to tobacco. It's in the same category. I don't think that that's as stressed because, you know, you go up to someone who's like, hey, do you smoke cigarettes? They're like, ew, no. And they're like, well, do you vape? They're like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. You know, so there's a big divide between lighting a cigarette with fire and just like vaping after you charge it. There's like a big divide there, but we
It's
have
like
to bridge that gap and
candy
be
and-
like, it's the same substance. You're just delivering it differently.
It's kind
And
of
I
like
think-
some myth busting, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Myth
Exactly.
busting.
I hear a lot of people saying it's not smoke, it's vapor.
And it's not
It's the
vapor,
same
it's
thing.
aerosol.
Aerosol,
actually
right?
aerosol.
It's still
my hashtag.
It's like
nicotine.
room freshener.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I also think having some information about marijuana is important. Some of our stats showed that the philosophies of, was it parents in junior high and then high school, and how much it went down in high school? But including marijuana was some of
If
our
parents talk with their
education.
teenagers about it
Yes.
earlier, then they have less use later on. for
Right.
the most part.
So you mean including it in this night, in this presentation?
Yeah,
about
I
vaping?
think.
Should
I
we
think-
headline it as well, or should we just headline it strictly to vaping? Like what do you think?
So Terry,
I-
who said don't overwhelm them with too much information, is
No,
now adding
no, I said that
substances.
scientifically. I do think marijuana is an important subject, I really do.
It is.
Marijuana and vaping.
I would agree with that. Those are the two.
I think vaping's the bigger issue right now and I do think you're right, but so like just have it like vaping and marijuana.
We could call the event Exhale.
Boy. Well, kind of, they're the two kind of spotlight things right now, right? Because marijuana has
Yeah.
recently been legalized, and vaping is this kind of new. They're both being touted as, hey, these are okay things, right? And so
Yeah, harm is
yeah, yeah.
perception of harm is
The perception of
decreasing.
harm is lower than the
Perception
actual
is-
reality of
yes.
it. So maybe something along those lines, like these are the two things that are in the spotlight at the moment, kind of
Mhm.
that we're concerned about, that our students are reporting, doing. So
My one concern about headlining it with marijuana is that will we lose the parents of younger kids? Because I feel like as soon as we put it out there, alcohol, marijuana, like, or anything else, they're like, oh, that's for later. Like, that's, we're talking about brushing our teeth. We're not talking about, that kind of stuff. Whereas the
That's
vaping,
part of the problem.
it's
Is
true.
that they
We
don't
could slip it in, just do a 5-minute
I
piece
was
on it.
going to ask you that.
That's why I said vaping
Yeah.
and marijuana.
I think
In the smoke.
if you have a better feel for that, and if you think that's the best target to go, and then include some of that information, I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, I do. I think like it might turn some people away, sadly. I mean, I think it is an important topic right
Vaping
now.
is very hot
but-
for, especially the middle school parents who are starting to hear
Parents are
middle school stories.
I mean, just being out in the parent world, I feel like parents are universally talking about vaping, but they're not universally talking about marijuana.
That doesn't
So
mean we
let's
shouldn't
do-
talk about it.
No,
Maybe
but,
we
like, I
could
think
bring it up when we're there. We
Yeah.
don't have to advertise it. But I do want to make sure that we keep part of it really, really simple. Like, when my middle school student is at middle school, how are they going to get exposed to this? How do I stop them?
When are the step-up
how
days
do-
for both
is it-
elementary and junior high?
they've had middle school already.
They've already done it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not positive, but.
Yeah, they did it last week.
I think
did
we
it,
should have
right?
a step-up
For
day
both,
for the
yeah.
parents.
We did. And Marge and I.
And call it exhale.
Marge,
Marge and Shelley
Marge and I were
kicked
there.
butt.
You stepped
You know
up.
what I'm
Yes.
thinking is that we have a measles crisis, we have a wall crisis, and now we have another crisis with
Aerosol crisis.
Are we wearing people out with crisis? How do we make people think how important this is? In terms of their child.
I think it's because it is their child that they know how important.
Yeah, measles in the wall aren't an issue for a lot of families here, but vaping, it is. a
It is,
concern.
and like every time, I really think that that's, like, who's doing it in the schools? Like, yeah, you're not exempt if you're on a team, on a sports team. You're not exempt if, nobody is exempt.
It would be great. I think in terms of that, we could reach out to the Youth Advisory Board again. And they helped us at a vaping conference that we helped sponsor in West Springfield.
That's out of the district attorney's office.
So, yeah, the DA's Youth Advisory Board. And they had students who were from different districts, but they definitely talked about, like, the range of students who are using vapes. So that might be good. I think if we use them, we don't have to put our own students on the spot for speaking to their own community, because that's like if it's a public venue and everybody's parents come, you're not going to want to be the one who's,
But we're going to have an hour at the most.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah, but I think they were, at the
Sorry.
conference that we sponsored, they were a very popular part of it because they had the inside scoop, that they could share with, in this case, it was with staff, but now we would be talking to parents, so.
I think the coaches meet with parents. They have a parent meeting at the start of every season, and we're right in the middle or the beginning of spring season. So it might be another good delivery avenue for
The-
you know,
the
let us.
one-
They don't let us
the
do it.
one-
Yeah, we've
the
tried.
one- the
What?
one- The
We try
one
so
thing
hard.
with that is they are so focused on time, they
Yeah.
spit a lot of information out and then they break up.
Yeah.
We've
Like the
tried
teams,
that.
yeah.
They've
It's
given us 5
really
minutes
tough.
in the past, and I don't think they do a winter and spring one
Just the
anymore.
fall.
It's just the fall. So we already do like a 5-minute thing in the fall, and it's been opiate focused
I
and
like
injury
that
based.
look. Okay.
So that's what, yeah.
Sue seems like
It's
she
just,
wants to do
we
something
had the
about
same
that.
idea and it just,
So yeah.
Do you
It's
have
like
any
getting
money
hit
for
by a wave.
advertisements?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
we do.
Years ago, they used to put ads at Stropel Field.
Oh, yeah.
Other,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any other places, any of
So
the fields.
we're going to talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that with the social
Yeah.
norms data, which we wanted to sort of wrap our meeting up with, but around like the positive social norms campaign we're looking to do in the community for parent education, and where to put that messaging, like where should we put these sorts of posters and flyers and where should we put the campaign? But that's a great point.
Yeah, or just informational things to counteract the advertising promoting the
Mhm,
vaping.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be social norms campaigning.
No, it could be this,
informational.
smokefree.gov
Yeah.
has all these amazing resources, and the 84 movement has amazing resources. Like, they already have like tobacco industry is sweet talking our kids, media campaign stuff ready. So
so this meeting that we just talked about doing at your place, we need to get a date.
mhm.
Right.
How are we going to get the word out to the parents? Because the biggest problem we have with everything we always do is how do we get the parents there? How do we entice the parents there?
Mhm.
Do we have the kids go home and tell the parents, you need to go with this?
Well, the Jewish Community Center has a following.
Yeah, and we usually do like flyers, and we'll do, we have like constant contacts. We usually put it, like, we'll put it on our Facebook page when we
Do you have excellent attendance at all of your
Yeah.
presentations?
We
But we
do.
need to get it out to other aspects of the community.
Honestly,
They have their-
So, we have our newsletter, our social media presence, we share things. I mean, there's some interest in clicks and activity, but the number one return on interest has always been the superintendent's email. So when we can get something into an email from Marty O'Shea, everyone reads it and everyone's interested in attending. So
And
that's our way to
he's
go.
been a great supporter of us, so
Yeah.
that's been excellent.
We
Do you
just to
guys
get
have
on-
like school websites that you guys can post it on and
Yeah, all the
stuff?
middle schools, that's a great idea. Because parents check that out.
And we'd be looking for elementary in this case too.
That's
And
true.
really kind of highlighting in that messaging, like,
Yeah.
They
This
can go
is-
home in our newsletters to parents and.
yeah.
And a lot of our talk is word by mouth. We send the flyers out, we put them on our constant contacts, we put them on Facebook and all what we do. But a lot of it is parents talking to other parents. We found out that they'll call up, Susie and be like, did you hear what they're gonna have at the JCC and they're having this? And so a lot of it is, believe it or not, word by mouth.
We have these A-frame boards now that we could put at the pickup lines at the middle schools.
We do?
Yeah, these big.
That's ours?
Yeah, that's ours.
Oh, that's
See, Pat,
great.
that was Patty's idea.
That was Patty's idea, and I acted on it.
wear it.
Do you know any trendsetters?
Patty wanted her to spin one of the sides.
That's
Yeah.
right.
These are all great ideas. Yeah.
If you want to put a sign up in the center, you have to get the permission from the town to do that. So don't just put them in the center of the town first.
The center?
Ask-
Oh, I haven't done
No,
that.
the one
Oh, I wasn't even thinking of that. I was thinking just the pickup
signs
lines
that
at
they
the
have
school.
in either end of town.
Yeah, either end, or sometimes here, they.
Because you can do that for the day before or something like that? There's like a window.
Yeah, 3 days
That's the
before. The
building.
town manager or somebody has
How
to.
about school pickup? Is that required for school pickup?
I don't think so. I think the principal would be
Be
the
willing
folks
to
who
do
we need
that.
to talk to about that, for sure. Yeah.
Cool. I didn't even think about the entrance to town. That's so smart because
Yeah.
you do see those like sign up for football.
Correct.
And I'm like, okay, but I don't know. Am I too old?
That would be interesting if we started doing more of that at the towns, at the ends. You can do one at the Y, right in front of, no vaping, right at the front of big Y gas station there. You know, you can set them up there.
Triangle.
Yeah,
Oh.
the triangle, you can do
Oh.
that.
That's a favorite
And then you
place.
can do down at, I think the
The
common.
Springfield Long
and
Meadow
the
Yeah,
line.
the
Springfield
Enfield
line.
Ends of the highway.
Oh, both ends, and then
Route 5,
Enfield.
yeah,
Enfield
Route 5,
and-
both ends.
Yeah, you got
I'm
it.
surprised you haven't seen my flu clinic.
Oh, we have.
Oh, we have, yeah.
We've all had
Rabies
shots,
clinic,
multiple
flu
flu shots.
clinic, you name it, we've done it.
But
right.
we'll pick a night. I'll work with Sonia and Maureen at the JCC to pick a night in late Thursday, a Thursday night at 6:30.
Sounds good.
What
Yeah.
month
Sounds
do you
good.
think it would
So-
be?
Late April?
Late April?
Late
I
April?
think that's what he said. We just gotta, I can email you tomorrow actually after I talk to them, because we just gotta make sure that like Passover and stuff isn't included into
Yeah,
that.
I don't want to mess with Jewish holidays.
Did make sure there's no concerts going on that
Yes.
evening.
I haven't checked any of those
It's
dates yet,
just
but
the,
is there like
uh,
a central place, just the calendar, the school
There's
calendar?
a master calendar.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check
It
it out.
has like kind of most of the big events on it, yeah.
Is there a day that you've found works better than others during the week?
Usually Thursday. I don't know why, but I don't know if it's
Fine.
like, parents are like, oh, well, tomorrow's Friday, so it doesn't matter if we're gonna be out late.
Yeah, there's something funny about
Yeah.
Thursday nights for everyone.
And then they all head out for a few drinks after.
Patty, this is live television.
That's
Edit
why
that.
she had to wear the sign.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Is there
Brian, if we
any
could cut
so-
that.
people
Oh.
that you consider like trendsetters, or like people on the LEAP committee or
Leaf.
Leaf.
Are they people that sort of like set the tone for the rest of us? You know?
The ambassadors.
Yeah.
Are they?
I don't know. I mean, I don't.
I mean, I think
Do you have people?
we
that-
have so many awesome people in town, you know. We'll certainly announce it at school committee and places
Ideally,
like
we
that,
have
but-
sector reps for our organization. I mean,
For this
even going
reason.
through those people. That's
Yeah.
ideally
Mm-hmm.
how the sector reps should work.
Right. The PTOs and the PACs and
Yes.
stuff like that, so we.
I think that is
that would be a
very
good
important.
committee. Go.
I bet the two
So-
best, superintendent's email and JCC's email are probably the two best ways.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll do all these other things too.
I think, so in terms of the content, you said like the Take Action Committee will kind
Yeah.
of pick it up and work on framing it more, but just to put
Meeting
out there
next week.
what we did at the conference in West Springfield. We had the youth advisory boards, we had some student voices. We also had a vape shop owner come, who was also very well received by the people who attended.
From Zane Smoke
And-
Shop.
Yeah, he's from East Long Meadow, and he brought a display
I don't know
of
how
like
well
his
the
products and
25th
talked
would
about like
do.
the trends and what's selling,
That's a really good
and then
night.
like basically stood there
Passover's
after. I mean, he did a
next
nice little
night.
talk about it, but then he also stood there so that people could kind of interact and ask him
It's a good
questions
idea.
about what's
That's
there. So,
7 days.
because a parent might be like reluctant to go into a shop,
This night
but if
probably
the shop
would
comes
not
to them,
be best.
they might be willing to check it out. And
I think it's a good
It's
idea.
interesting.
so,
Yeah.
Do
vape
you
shop.
have, like, and also what's been seen in the high school, and what's been confiscated? So
That's a good
people-
point too. Yeah,
Show
we
you
do.
how the police bring their little briefcase and open it up.
I
with
have a
all the
little, yes.
exhibits.
Oh, it all goes to you.
Yeah, in the end, so I do have a little envelope. I mean, because they're so small, this one envelope, and they're all just jammed in there. But
Well, I think it's important, like you said earlier, to put it out there as like, come learn, not like, your kids are bad and
Yeah.
they're doing this. It's more
Come
like,
learn
come
about
learn about
vaping.
this, because it's
Right.
possible and it's out there. Because we're targeting the younger kids' parents, if you're gonna tell a sixth grader's parent that their kid is doing this, that's not gonna
Right.
click as much as, hey, they're getting to that age, maybe you should just be a little bit aware rather than attacking the problem head on, or like, just
It's an
look at this.
opportunity.
Yeah.
It's
Side
an
by side.
opportunity to learn and get out ahead of it as a
Right.
parent.
You see
It's
these,
and it's kind of the same with just sprinkling the the marijuana subject in there, because I mean you can tie it in. There are electronic marijuana oil thingies that you can smoke. So I think that's a pretty good tie-in to just
It's
kind
true,
of put
yeah.
it in there to kind of get them thinking about it.
That's very good.
Delivers more than
I think we learned at that parents' night that there were a lot of people who didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had the jewels that have been confiscated at school on display for the 8th grade parents step-up night. And so we could show them.
that's
you know,
really
this
good.
is
I don't think they know, a lot of people even
No.
know. If they don't
They don't.
smoke themselves or vape themselves, they may not even know
They don't.
what you're talking about.
I mean, it looks like a thumb drive. It's
Yeah,
this
I've
big,
seen
you
it,
know.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
Right.
and speaking to that, did you do a presentation to the teachers last year or the year
Last
before?
year, we did a staff presentation, yeah.
No, some of the teachers didn't know what it looked like.
So you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Especially when you bring in the fruit of it. That he was saying that a lot of those fruit thins and those younger kids, they want to try the peach, they want to probably try the strawberry, not realizing how bad it is. Just that they want to taste the fruit, I would assume.
And it says no nicotine on those
Oh, does it?
containers.
And some of
And
them.
then it says this item contains nicotine, if you read the language. Because there's no one regulating those juices.
right.
So the FDA is not regulating those. So there could be a lot of nicotine or none, but there's usually some. But they
Right.
all say no nicotine. So it's a total Wild West situation.
I always get lost in, why we don't want them to do it. And when I think of a 6th grader vaping, then I just think of the little brain.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to remember. Like, it's the brain, it's the bad. That's
It's the wiring, yeah.
and the wiring.
But yeah, we let them play football.
Hey, Marge, we're going to talk about that next
Different
meeting.
coalition.
Different coalition. We only have 5 minutes, and I'd love to do something before we leave, and that is we collected a ton of data with a community norms survey or community survey. 800 respondents were for the high school survey. We had 364 community respondents to our community survey. And we dug through it as a assessment and evaluation subcommittee, and Sue was there, and Terry was there, and Patty was there, and Shelley was there with some really intelligent people thinking about these issues. But I wanted to share the data that we targeted. There's sort of 12 pieces of information we thought were really important. And after I share all this data, I would love to get feedback from the group as to like, this is the data point that the community needs to know. Like, please, like, these are my top 3. This is the most important message. Because we don't have a ton of time, so I wanted to get everyone's sort of like knee-jerk reaction to, I want to see a poster in town on every business's window that says that positive community norm. You got it? We're ready? Okay, here we go. So we only have a few of these slides, but 3 out of 4 LHS students have not used marijuana in the past 12 months. So that's a positive community norm. 9 out of 10 LHS students could ask a parent or caregiver for help if they had a personal problem. So that's students feeling connected to their adults and trusting their adults in their lives. 8 out of 10 LHS students report that their family has clear rules about alcohol use. That's 80%. 9 out of 10 LHS students report that their family has clear rules about marijuana use. So just to go back, it was 8 out of 10 for marijuana or for alcohol, 9 out of 10 for marijuana rules in their family, clear rules. 9 out of 10, 93% of LHS students report that their family has clear rules about drug use in general. Or is that drug use in general, Shelley, or is that like other
It actually
drugs?
said other drugs.
Okay, so that's basically everything except, tobacco, marijuana, alcohol. 9 out of 10 LHS students did not drink at home with parents' permission or knowledge. So that's like the parent permissiveness piece. It's still very, very infrequent for students to use with their parents' knowledge in the home. So that's a good thing. 97% of adults surveyed felt it was wrong for middle school students to drink alcohol. This is from the community survey. 85% of adults surveyed felt it was wrong for high school students to drink alcohol. So it's decreasing, which is already a shocking statistic for anyone who understands brain development. You're like, why do they think it's like way more okay? 99% of adults surveyed felt it was wrong for high school students to use an electronic vapor product. That's fascinating to me. It is the most addictive of all the substances, but it's interesting nonetheless. So those were the data points we all targeted. And before I hear all your ideas about which one we should focus on, this is sort of an idea of how you can use it. This is what we did in the schools over the fall, spring of last year and fall of this year. You take a positive community norm that is the majorative behavior of a group, and you target it and focus on it when you have a perception of people in the community that actually the opposite is true. So a lot of students think that it's normal to binge drink, but most students are not binge drinking. And so that's why we chose one of these.
Do you know what I showed
Say
this?
that again, Paul.
So like students think, oh, everyone binge drinks. But then when they're asked, do you binge drink? 82% of students say no.
Although,
But their perception is that everyone's doing it. But when they're reporting their own behavior, not only is not everyone doing it, almost everyone is not doing it. So it's a perception problem.
when I was at one of the stores telling them about the event tomorrow night, it was a graduate from 2016, I believe, graduate. No, it was earlier. But she said, look at that. That's not right. When she saw this,
Yeah.
and she was, people do it much more.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
usually
it's like
the
exactly what
perception.
you're saying,
Yeah.
the perception.
Yeah.
Any gut reactions before we take off about like, hey, we should cover this data. I can go through the slides again if it helps. Beverly.
I was surprised that the kids felt that they could approach their parents on so many issues. Because if that is so, then as much information, if you have at least parents having the information.
So the clear rules or caregiver is
The
trusting?
the communications piece.
It's
I think
impressive.
that, yeah, well, impressive because, I don't know, as an observer, you think the kids can't talk to their parents
I think-
today.
And this doesn't ask about if they do. It says
It
that they
says they
could.
think.
Which is really, you're right, that's a perception.
Paul, and I think you have to put that word felt
Yeah.
they could,
Mm-hmm.
because could just means, okay, there's a parent or caregiver for them to talk to, not that they felt they could.
Mhm. I
So
hear
we
what you're
need to
saying.
add a word.
Yeah, you're right. It's like, yeah, they're there.
Yes.
But if they feel like they
Mm.
feel comfortable and trusting of that. Yeah. Okay. Any other before we take off?
Well, the vaping statistic is pretty, 99%, right? Is it 99% of adults feel it's wrong?
Oh, these words.
Yeah, and that's like, let's
Yeah.
capitalize on this awesome,
I mean, you might want to be able to use that for a slogan, at least for your
yeah. So when parents, I mean,
workshop.
and it's real data, so parents can see it and sink their teeth and go,
And-
I'm part of that 99%.
Yeah, you might be part of that. I mean, you might be able to contrast that with the numbers that we have of students who are vaping.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
You know, the first stat that you had up there, 3 out of 4 students do not have not used marijuana. I think that's a great stat, but the fact is 1 out of 4 has.
yeah.
Yeah, I know that one I'm iffy on
So,
too,
It
yeah.
is,
I feel like
because
I'm
that's only
always
75%, that's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, with,
I feel like I'm
with
fully
illicit
convinced.
substance use, it's nice to hit something above the 80%.
It's still, it's interesting because I still have, for the students who will say, oh, everybody, you know what I mean? Like, well, our stats actually don't say that.
Yeah.
It is,
No,
it's
I think that's
25%.
I think
But to
that
put it
is
on a poster
positive.
would be a different thing.
I
agree.
think
Yeah,
that
you're
is
right.
very
Yeah.
positive,
I'm with
but
you.
the fact is, when we talk about it, or we're doing the education, it's important to say, this is a positive statistic, but the fact is, 1 out of 4 is.
Yeah. Let's make it 4 out of 4, yeah. Any other knee-jerk reactions? The last thing I'm going to say, and please just communicate with us, reach out to us if you have other thoughts and ideas. And we're going to be workshopping a lot of this data and norming messaging in the next couple months, so don't worry, you'll hear about it. But we wanted to thank the police department. This is one of the things we found,
Yeah.
and the school department. But the police department, 95% of the adults we surveyed support LPD enforcing underage drinking laws, and 93% of adults surveyed support the LPD enforcing underage marijuana laws. So people strongly support Long Meadow Police Department enforcing these laws. So when it's just, they're doing a great job and they're supported in doing that work. It's not one of those communities where people are like, I wish they would just leave us alone and let us do our, it's, let kids be kids, that sort of feeling. They really do support, they look at law enforcement as a key ally in helping young people make healthier decisions. And the same can be said for the school department. They feel super safe and connected to the teachers and staff here. They feel like they belong, there's a sense of belonging, there's caring adults. And students report, they feel very connected to the adults and very supportive of the adults in the school community. So I just wanted to share that data and thank the school department as well. Folks, let's get out of here. The next meeting, we would love to have either Monday, June 3rd, which sounds like it's kind of late in the school year, right? Or Monday the 27th is Memorial Day. Or Monday the 20th of May. Or do people have any strong thoughts about either of those days? Is June, the beginning of June, is that a little too crazy in the school year? Or?
When is graduation this
It's
year?
a Friday night, so.
And is it a,
8th.
what date, do you know?
I'm not sure if I
Late,
have it.
mid-June, right?
Yeah.
So maybe early June, would that Monday work?
Isn't
The
usually
third?
the first week in June, graduation?
Yeah. It could.
We don't want to interrupt a lot.
But it's not Friday night, so if you stay away from Friday nights, you're definitely,
Okay.
I want to say it's.
I'll just
June
tentatively
7th.
schedule Monday, June 3rd, 7 p.m. for our next quarterly coalition meeting.
June 7th.
And with that,
What did you
we-
say? What did you say? Sorry.
we're looking at
June
June 3rd, Monday night, 7 p.m. for our next community coalition meeting.
Going once?
And with
I
that,
second that.
we adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks again to LCTV for sponsoring and shedding light on this wonderful meeting filled with incredible leaders in the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Clap for yourself. Thanks, Brian.